Welcome to our lesson, Relations in Algebra. This is going to be the first lesson in our functions unit. For this video, it's Unit 5. If that doesn't align with our current class pacing, I will change the label at the front of this video. So when we're talking about relations, it's an over-encompassing idea, and functions work into this area. What we want to look at is how two numbers relate to each other, how they have a relation. So let's say we have the numbers 2, 3. This here is an ordered pair. We usually see this as an XY coordinate, but for now we are going to call this an ordered pair. An ordered pair's relation would be how we got from 2 to get to 3. We might add by 1, which means another ordered pair could be 3, 4, and then 5, 6, right? As long as we have two numbers that we can describe a relation between them. Our job in this unit is going to figure out what equations help us identify those relations. So here we could say that y, this second number, is basically just our x value, that first number, plus 1. And we'll learn about that more in the rest of this unit. Right now we're going to go ahead and turn to the foldable for this unit. Here we talk about just a couple of definitions. We say a set of ordered pairs is called a relation. Relation. That would be that ordered pair. And I'll just put that here. Ordered pair. The set of the first numbers is called the domain. That would be our x number. And the set of the second numbers, that second number, we're going to call that the range. That would be our y value. We're going to use a quick example of people's birth months, right? So we're going to look at the relation between somebody's name and their birth month, right? So you, as the person, you have a birthday, and that birthday falls in a month. You don't have two different months that you're born into, you only have one. So for your input or your domain, which would be your x value, you have a range, which would be your y value. One thing relates to another, so you and your birth month relate. So this would be you, and let's say you were born in January. And each item in our domain should have a range. So let's say there's me, Miss Mata. I would also have a range. My range is August. I am born in August. We can add a couple of more people. Let's say, I don't know. Let's find some people. Let's say Shayla is born in April. And John is born in February. Each domain comes with a range. So if Miss Mata is in the domain, her range would be August. And we're going to go ahead and do this in a couple of ways. This first way was called a mapping. The next way we might look at this, or we might label this out, is through a table. And we do the same thing. We would just take our domains, which is the names, and then we would list out our ranges, our y values. So you would have a range of January. And we would say that's the first month. Me, Miss Mata, would have a range of August. We're going to start to abbreviate those. And that's in the 8th month. Shayla would have a range of April. April is the 4th month. And John would have a range of February, which would be the 2nd month. So we went ahead and looked at a couple of ways that we can list out our relations. We did the mapping, the table, and the last would be the graph. Our y values, our range, go on our y line, so this would be for the birth months. And I'm just going to label them based off of the number of the month. So January is 1, February is 2, and then we just keep going up. I think this one will only let us go till the 9th month, which is September. And then our x values, or our domain, would be for the names. And since we don't have a lot of room for our names, we're just going to use that first initial. So U would be in January, so we go from U to the first month, and we place a dot there. Me, Miss Mata, I'm in August, so we would go from my x value all the way to my range of 8. Shayla is born in the 4th month, and John is born in the 2nd month. Once you have that done, you can go ahead and open up your foldable. We're going to try this with actual numbers, which is what we will see in class. And just a reminder, a relation can also be represented as a table, a graph, or a mapping. A mapping illustrates how each element of the domain is paired with the element of the range. So we're going to try to illustrate that domain and range pairing, right? So we're going to get 3 ordered pairs, 3, 2, negative 1, 2, negative 2, and negative 2. And we'll turn them into a table, a graph, a mapping. And then from there, we will determine the domain and the range, and we'll list them out over here. So let's go ahead and put these ordered pairs in a table. X was the domain, Y was the range. We have 3, and its range is 2. Negative 1, and its range is also 2. Then we have negative 2 with the range of negative 2. Next, we'll try the graph. I have to label my graph before I move forward so that I know where to place each ordered pair. So in the center is always 0. To the right is positive. To the left is negative. Up is positive. And down is negative. And now I can use my graph to plot my ordered pairs. So I can go from here, or I can go from here. So we'll start at 3, look for 3 on your x-axis, and then we'll go up by 2 because 2 is positive. And I'm putting down my first dot. Then I'll go to negative 1 on my x-axis and up to 2. Lastly, I'll find -2. And I'll go down 2 because my range is also negative. And that's graphing. You do not need to connect the dots. They are fine as they are. Next, we'll look at our mapping. Remember that your domain is your x and your range is your y. Here we are listing out all of our values in the domain. What we want to do is not repeat numbers in the domain or the range. So do not repeat numbers. I'll go ahead and highlight that just so that we know it's important information. Do not repeat numbers. So in the domain, I have 3 numbers, 3, -1, -2, and none of those numbers are a repeat, so I'm fine. In the range, I would have 2, 2, and -2. However, 2 and 2 repeat, therefore I only need one of those 2's. And then I'm going to have -2 down here. From there, I need to be able to actually map each domain to its range. So for 3, I need to be able to draw an arrow to its range, which happens to be 2. -1 has a range of 2, so I will also draw an arrow from -1 to 2. And then -2 has a range of -2, so then I will draw an arrow from here to here. So we do not repeat any numbers when it comes to mapping, either in the domain or the range. When we are listing out the numbers for the domain and the range, we want to make sure no numbers are repeated, and there's one other piece of information you should know. You are listing these numbers from least to greatest. List numbers from least to greatest. For the domain, my smallest number would be -2. So that one is going to go first. So -2, comma, -1, comma, 3. Close my brackets. And for my range, -2 is smaller than 2. So that goes first. And that's it. Go ahead and attempt the second part here at the bottom. I will leave this up so you can pause your video if you need time to review your notes. Go ahead and glue these into your notebooks and ask me any questions in class if you need any.